Project for today is going to be this Toro Timecutter that fell off a trailer. He already took the wheel hub off. That was busted and it bent the rim and wrecked the tire. And it smashed some of this stuff up here. We can probably just put an air cleaner on it. I don't think he wants to replace the whole cover that was gone. We'll have to figure something out with this thing. And then the seat came off of it, the pad, and the battery. You can see it got busted where that got smashed in there, and it busted the choke cable off. It did quite a bit of damage falling off like that. And we'll probably put a tube in this front tire. I'm not sure if it's even going to run. It's been sitting outside, it looks like. We might have to go through the carburetor on it too. But I got some parts I ordered for it. It took a long time to get that hub. Those are not the easiest thing to get, and they're pretty expensive for what they are. And we got new lug nuts, and I got a used rim that will fit on there, but this tire is too small, so I'm going to take that tire off of there, and hopefully I have a bigger one to put on. It'll match this side. I'll get you set up and we'll get to it. First thing we'll do is get this rust off of this shaft, that axle shaft. That looks pretty good. Let's see if I can get that hub on there. Wanted to be able to see the bottom side. We still got some rust on there. Well, now we can put this hub on here. Came with a new nut too. It already had like some thread locker in there already. And they don't have a washer or anything that goes on this. It's just the nut. And get the couple of lug nuts and a pry bar to hold it so we can get it tight. Stuff like this is kind of tempting to just hit it with the impact, but when it's a tapered fit like that, going to get that back off, if you ram it down too tight with an impact, it's going to be really tough to get that off of there. Same thing with like flywheels and stuff like that. I've had a few where they rammed them down with the impact and I had a heck of a time getting them to pop back off with that tapered shaft. They lock so hard. Alright, now I gotta see if I got a tire for that other rim. I was gonna clean that rim up a little bit too. It's a little bit rusty. And we'll throw that on and we can get the thing back on its wheels anyway. I've got it sitting on just a dolly right now so I can move it around. Well, I found this one. It was already on a rim actually, so it's got the offset might be a little bit different. I ended up having to put it on backwards with the valve stem on the inside, but we'll see how that fits. It's not too bad. It's a little bit farther away, I think, than the other one. Otherwise, there's some stuff in the way here, something. It's still a little bit farther away, but I think that'll be okay. It's the same height and everything. It seems to fit on here okay. The only thing that might give us some trouble is the bumps here, the raised edges for the lug nuts. That might be a problem. It's not gonna sit flat. Well, we'll bolt it on there and see what it's like. The color doesn't match. I might just throw a quick shot of spray paint on there just so it matches the other side. So you can see the difference we got going on here. The main thing is the valve stem coming out this side. It's going to be a pain to try to get inside there to get air in the tire. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to swap this tire off the rim onto this one. And then also having the humps here, it's not going to sit flush, and that's usually a chance that your lug nuts will end up coming loose. I kind of wanted to keep this rim anyway. This was on a 0 turn that I might end up fixing someday. It's got a blown motor. So we'll swap them tires, and then I can clean this rim up a little bit once I get the tire off, and maybe throw a coat of paint on it for them too. That bead broke easy. Broke the valve stem off it too, boy. That was rotten. I'll clean this rim up a little bit, and I'll see if I have any white paint to throw on it. That should be roughed up enough to put a little bit of paint on. It doesn't gotta be perfect. The rest of the mower isn't perfect, so this will just make it so it's not quite so obvious to have the rim changed. This was the original color. It's kind of a off-white, where the other one is more of a bright white on the actual mower. Like that. So I'll see if I have any paint that'll kind of match that, and we can throw that on there quick. Well, I found some paint, but I don't know if you can tell on camera or not. I just squirted a little bit in there just to see how it would match, and it doesn't really match very good. It's kind of a more eggshell type It's an almond, it says on there. That really doesn't match very well. I'll have to see if I can find some more bright white paint and paint that. But in the meantime, we'll get that other tire off and keep going from there. This one's got a tube in it. We'll probably try to save the tube. Well, since I'm waiting on finding some paint, I'll try to see if this thing will fire up. Let's put a new air filter in it. And then I'll throw a new battery in it. See if we get anything. I don't know if it's gonna go though. You can see how smashed that one was compared to the new one. I'm pretty sure this thing was upside down in the side of the road, or on the road. Aren't latched on there. I have to drill a hole here and put a zip tie through this to hold that side down. Otherwise you'd need the whole new cover because it's busted. It's busted right here, and that's part of this whole cover. So he probably doesn't want to put that much money into it. That's an older mower, but we'll see if we can get it usable anyway. Holy cow, that gasket is tight. Well, there is gas in it. It doesn't smell too bad. And there's oil in it, but it looks pretty dark. We'll change that for him too. And looks like the seat switch is already disconnected. He's got a jumper wire in that. I'll grab that new battery and we'll throw that in and see if we can make it fire. This positive might be a little difficult to get out of here, being it's busted. It's turning. It's pretty rusty. We'll put a new bolt in it, in the new battery. It's got a rotten plastic nut on it. I'll have to clean that cable end up too. You can see that's pretty busted. Doesn't feel like there's much for acid left in it. And with these lawnmower batteries, a lot of people just want to get the cheapest battery possible, but when you're dealing with an engine that's this big, this is a Kohler 20 horsepower twin, you want to make sure that you get, this one's a 340 cranking amp, cold cranking amp. You want to make sure you get at least something around 300 cold cranking amps for an engine that big. Otherwise, it will work, but especially when you have the electric PTO, you're putting a lot of wear and tear on your charging system, and every year that battery loses some of its cranking amps, so the next year you use it, it probably won't work when you get the low cranking amp battery. Where you get the higher one, you'll get a few years out of them. Especially here in Wisconsin in the colder weather, they sit all winter in the cold if you don't take them out, and they start discharging and it ruins them after a while, especially if they end up freezing. Where these higher cranking amp ones, they don't go dead quite so fast. It looks like the solenoid down here has quite a bit of corrosion on it too. I don't know if that's going to make connection. We might have to take that off and clean it too. But we're probably ready to give it a try, see if it'll fire off. I already checked the oil and everything. We don't have the choke cable on it though, so I might have to manually do that. Under here, let's see. That one's the throttle. So that must be choke there. The choke pulls out to choke it, so. I don't know if that choke was staying. Oh, it fired. Well, it didn't seem to run too bad. It had a little bit of a surge there, but I could smell there was old gas in it. I did see a bunch of acorns flying out of it or something. I don't know what these are actually. They kind of look like crab apples. They're just all rotten. It didn't look like there was much in there when I kind of looked up through the cover. I don't know where all that was coming from. Well, now that we ran it for a minute, I'll drop the oil on it. And we'll change the oil filter too. The oil filter on these is in kind of a bad location. You can't really get anything under it to catch the oil, so I usually just put one of these absorbent mats under it, or pig mats, whatever you want to call them. And that one's really tight. I'll have to grab a wrench. I got a little oil on the ceiling side. Oh, I didn't even spill anything. That's pretty good. Usually these are pretty tough to do without making kind of a mess. It drains all over this, and you can see it's dished in here, so it sits down in there and then runs out the front usually. I'll probably check the plugs here. I gotta blow this out. It's got a bunch of, looks like either like cherries or crab apples or something in there. Didn't look like an actual mouse nest, just something they were storing a bunch of food in there or something. So I think we'll do that choke cable next. I gotta fill it with oil first, but put this drain plug back in. We gotta paint that rim still. I got some paint that matched the color a little bit better. It's not the greatest paint, but it's what I had at home in the cupboard, so. I got the rim out here in a cardboard box to spray paint it. Let's see how this looks. I want to get the overspray on the camera. It's not too bad. This paint doesn't cover very well. It's just some cheap paint. Usually Rust-Oleum is the one I usually like for stuff like this, but it'll be good enough. It's not going to look stupid on there now with it being a different color. I'll maybe let this dry and give it another coat and see if it turns out better. I'm going to try to get this choke cable out of here now while that rim is drying. I think it's just the 9/16 underneath here. Can't really see what you're doing. I guess I could take this panel off. Might be easier. That's a little bit better. I don't know if you can see that very good. Just a nut and a washer here. And I gotta take it off on the back by the motor. This is just a T25 Torx bit back here. It holds the cable. Holds the throttle cable also by the looks of it. Gets this one. Yeah. So then we'll pull that up through. This one wasn't zip tied or anything to anything. Grab that nut and washer off of there. Just like that. And I think this one was actually, the cable wasn't actually broke. It just broke the, oh yeah, the cable was broke. And take our new one. We gotta take the nut off of it before we run it through. Run that through here. Put this nut and washer on before I go too far. That way I won't lose it down in there. I'll get that started on here. I think it just goes down in there like that. I'll follow the throttle cable. So the cable pulls in to choke it. Right now it's off choke, so this has to be as far over as possible when you put this clamp back on, which I'm not sure where I set that. Here it is. And there's kind of a mark left on the throttle there, so I know where to put that. I'll try pulling on it, make sure that works. Looks pretty good. I'll tighten this nut down. Pretty good. I'll put these screws back in and that part will be done. Alright, we gotta try to fix that hold down for the air cleaner. I think I'm gonna take it back off and see if I can drill maybe 1 or 2 holes through there and through here, and I'll zip tie that down That'll give it a little bit of a chance to have the air filter not pop off of there. Gotta drill down in here, kind of at an angle. One, I think I'm gonna try to do 2 of them. Oh. I was worried about that. I should have put a rag in there, a little piece of plastic went down in there. And this piece, pull that off. That should go in there like that. So I want to do one there. I'm just scratching it. I'm not going to hang on to it while I drill it. I think I got a couple marks. I'll drill those in the vise and then zip tie it together. I got a couple of holes drilled in that. Whenever you're using zip ties, make sure if you're going to be out in the sun or anything, don't use the white or the clear kind of looking zip ties. They don't, the UV just eats them things up. The black ones give you a little bit more of a chance so they'll last a while. I'll get both of these started before I tighten them down. And you might know that one's upside down. I could have maybe crisscrossed them to make it like a stitch, but it doesn't have to hold too much. It's just holding the upward tension. I'll snip them a little tighter. And this will go back in there. These filters fit pretty tight already, so it doesn't need too much to hold it down. That seems like it held okay. It folded I should have put the tails on the other side. It folded the filter up a little bit. It looks like it's still sealing it down. You can kind of see that's holding tight now. I think that'll work. I'm going to see if that rim is dried enough we can put it on, and then we probably are getting close to, well, gotta do this front tire. I gotta put a tube in that, and then we should be close to being able to go test it out. I'm not even sure if the deck still works and stuff. This has a electric PTO, so I don't know. You can hear that click. You can kind of judge how good your clutch is by how hard you hear that bang. If you just hear a tiny little click, it's either low voltage or that clutch is getting weak. So I think the blades will actually work. They don't look too bad. I'll get a tube in that front tire and maybe put a second coat of paint on that other rim, and we should be good to go. That one looks pretty rusty inside. We'll have to do some cleaning on that. I always have trouble reinstalling the tires on that tire changer, so I usually just do that with a tire spoon on the ground. So we'll slide our tube in there and get that put back on. These little tires are kind of hard to work with. You gotta be careful not to pinch the tube. I didn't record cleaning the rust up. I figured you guys have seen me use the wire wheel enough times. That rim didn't turn out too bad. Looks about the same color white as the other rim. Might be a little bit of a flat white compared to the bright white, but it is pretty much dry. I think I might end up scratching some of it off when I put that tire on there. Hopefully not, but we'll throw this tire on and we'll be ready to test it out. One thing I didn't notice till I tried to drive it is this arm here is bent forward. I think we might have enough adjustment here. It might have just slid on the bolt. I'll try to loosen those up and pull it back, because that's almost impossible to drive in a straight line with it like that. Still up a little bit higher than the other one, but that's kind of tolerable. You just want to make sure they're straight with each other, otherwise one arm's forward, one arm's back. So now we'll go test it out. Well, I'm out here in the yard. I'm gonna fire it up and see how it mows. The one dampening shock for the one arm I noticed isn't very good, so it's kind of jumpy using it. And I did notice I just forgot to put the little hubcap on. And we'll go give her a try. Well, that's probably going to do it for this one. The deck is a little bit noisy, but he just mainly wanted me to get that rear wheel situation figured out and get it going again for him. So he's probably going to take it from here. So if you like this sort of thing, like the videos and subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.